Welcome. Thanks to all of you for coming. And I think all of you understand what a treat it is to have Harold Holzer here. He has a special place in my heart because he's one of those historians who's very generous to people who are newbies, who are trying to get into this game. And when I was just thinking about my Roosevelt book, before I had even figured it out, Harold was tremendously helpful to me, and I know he's been that way to other people, and we remember. And I'm so delighted that he's been recognized with one of our highest honors, really, in our country, in the humanities. It's also, I want to just say something before we start about the importance of a culture that allows people like Harold and me to write history. In a lot of countries, if we tried to do it without being full-time scholars, we wouldn't even get to first base. And the United States is an open enough culture that you can be judged on the work and not on your sheepskin. So, and I know that the Historical Society has been very good about recognizing that the study of history can come from well beyond the academy. And so you have a couple of examples of it tonight. This book is so on point for what's going on today. Just this morning, midday, President-elect Obama gave a press conference, and I think every time he's appeared in public, he's quoted Lincoln in one way or another. Today, he did it without credit. And he used one of Lincoln's great lines that we need to think and act anew. And he mentioned it apropos of the Office of Management and Budget, but nonetheless was apt, and he has been a student of Lincoln and no doubt a reader of Harold's books on Lincoln. And I just wanted to ask you, though, Harold, as we get going, you've written a lot of books about Lincoln. Why this one in particular?
Well, first of all, thank you for saying those nice things about me and about us. That was good, too. And about the non-academy historians. But, and I appreciate your saying I was generous. If I had known quite how successful the defining moment would be, I'm not sure I would have spent that much time with you, but
that's good.
I was thinking you were starting out in a new field. And I've known you for such a long time. The truth is, and this is going to sound like it's very rehearsed and a mutual admiration society, but when you first talked to me about this book and said that it would not only encompass Roosevelt's first 100 days, which was the principal thrust of it, but would deal so heavily with his own secession winter, but the interregnum between November 1932 and March 1933, and we kicked around some of the issues, including the assassination attempt on Roosevelt, was it in Miami?
Yes.
It reminded me again that Lincoln, of course, faced an assassination threat in Baltimore, also in the South, en route to his inauguration. And it just occurred to me from there that if I could somehow get this work done, this would be a great year to have a book on Lincoln as president-elect come out, not having a clue that the president-elect would be such a Lincoln aficionado and would, as you say, just quote him either attributed or unattributed constantly. So it was a very happy circumstance, and you really helped push me toward this.
Oh, well, that's very nice to hear. Tell me why, well, first of all, tell everybody a little bit about that interregnum. It lasted until March 4th. Roosevelt's inauguration, his first inauguration, was the last one that took place on March 4th. Since that time, it's been January 20th. But at the time of Roosevelt's transition, there were a few people alive, very, very few people, who recognized it as the most perilous time in the country's history since the Civil War. Mm-hmm. Very, very few people who could remember it. In the same way that today, there are just a few people around who were, 7, 8, 10 years old, maybe 15 years old, and can remember the banking crisis of 1933. But if you could paint a picture for us of what it was like in 1860, 61, as they went those long 4 months between Lincoln's election and his swearing in.
It was an agonizingly slow interregnum, as I think people are feeling now, and ours is going to be, it's only 3 weeks since Election Day, and I think people are just eager for the transition to turn over and to occur. It wasn't the founders' design, by the way, that there be a 4-month transition. I think the March 4th date was conceived because the Electoral College met in February. It was really almost like a 10 Downing Street transition. Elect someone on mid-February, and then a few weeks later, the White House, or whatever it was then, wasn't even the White House then, the transition occurs seamlessly. The founders did not conceive that there would a popular election the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November, and then the 4-month wait. Clearly it was worse. I mean, now we have blue states and red states, then almost blue states and gray states. Half of the country did not recognize the outcome of the election. Unprecedented. Bush v. Gore times 500. In the North, where Lincoln won 54.5% of the vote, 45 or 46% voted against him. So he came to...
It's almost exactly the Obama-McCain margin.
Yeah, but I'm not counting the South, because Lincoln's total vote was not 40%. It was 39% and change. That's a very perilous threshold to have not reached. So immediately the election is cast in doubt. Not even getting to the secession crisis yet. Lincoln was not sure that the state electors who met on December 6th would ratify his election. He was not sure that the Electoral College count in mid-December would ratify the election. So it was, as I say, more like Bush v. Gore in that way. And then, like Roosevelt, in the same way that Roosevelt was faced with this kind of activity before he became president, in that 4-month period, Congress and an independent convention called the Peace Convention attempted to impose policy on him before he became president that would have bound him to the perpetuation and the expansion of slavery. And he had run on a platform in the days when people actually read the party platforms from start to finish. How many people have, people really read the platform. He was bound against the expansion of slavery, even one territory. And he had to operate privately, very cautiously, under the radar screen. There was no radar screen, but you know what I mean metaphorically, to prevent these compromises from taking place. So this is while 7 states are seceding from the Union.
This is at the Willard Hotel where they all got together, and that conference was not successful, but did it almost become successful?
It was successful in at least they broke up with a plan that they sent to the House and Senate, which had already rejected almost the exact same plan. And the plan was a constitutional amendment that would forbid Congress from ever interfering with slavery where it existed, perpetuation, would have extended the Missouri Compromise line west all the way to California, expansion, and include such territory as may be added, north or south, where we were, maybe we had our eye on Canada, but the slave power certainly had its eye on Cuba and Mexico and other areas that they could add to the slave territory of the United States. So they did send the amendment to Congress, but they did pass sort of a tepid 13th Amendment. I don't know how many people know this, but there actually is a 13th Amendment to the Constitution that was forwarded to the states doing this. It was only passed by one state,